Hey everyone, this is Randall. Welcome to the Imperial Minis channel, and I am joined by Chris from Hits and Crits for what is probably one of my most exciting video contributions to this series that we've been undertaking here for many weeks now. This will be our Greyjoy Season 3 update discussion. So Greyjoys were my first faction in the game. Greyjoys were the faction that got me into A Song of Ice and Fire, and they're still one of my, I'd say, top two factions that I play along with Targaryen. So I've been really looking forward to this video, and thanks to Chris for joining me here and discussing this with us.
Sure. Great to be
here. So to lead things off here, the Greyjoys got a lot of changes, and we're not going to discuss all of them in detail, or we're going to be here all day, all night, and I don't think any of us want that. As much as I would like to get into the weeds on every last little change, we're going to try to keep focused on the important ones, and just kind of gloss over very, very quickly on the ones that are, we think, less significant. So kind of to lead things off, the pillage mechanic overall got overhauled in Greyjoy. So it used to be that units had very specific unit level pillage abilities, but now not only do they have that, but they have a faction-wide bonus called Raiders of the Iron Islands. So now with when a House Greyjoy unit earns a pillage token for destroying a rank in melee, if they get one pillage token, their morale goes up by 1. And if they have 2 pillage tokens, they get +1 attack die. So they can, at 2 pillage, they get both of those. I think that's a really great change for the faction. It helps kind of shore up one of their longtime weaknesses, which is bad morale. And then on the high end of that pillage, it makes them more deadly in melee, which is what they want to do as a faction. Do you have any other thoughts on that, Chris, or are you ready to just jump into it?
Yeah, the only thing I can say, the only bad thing on it is that it's only in melee, which we will cover later when we talk about the Bowman. So that's kind of a bummer, but maybe needed. But the other one, as you said, is still great because they earn the pillage right after they destroy a rank, and not only after the full attack.
Has been,
So that's big, right? So a needed change, a good change for the faction. So yeah, I really like the change. I really like the overall mechanic. What I don't like, but we will also take a deeper look in that, is that certain units do not really synergize with it. Yeah, let's talk about that later.
All right, so we're going to jump in now and talk about attachments first. We'll focus on commander attachments, and then we'll talk about some of the generic attachments just very briefly. So I'm gonna kind of run through a few of the maybe less impactful changes to commanders, and then we'll talk about kind of some of the ones that we think are a little more important. So Asha Commander, she lost Inspiring Presence, but got Iron Resolve. She has been changed a couple of times over the last couple of season updates. This is just another change to her. I think she remains a kind of a tough commander, so this just makes her a little more tough. Her unit attachment got the same change. There's not a whole lot to say about her. I don't think really needs to be said. It was not a huge change, just makes her unit, whatever unit she goes into, even more tanky. And Balon, so Balon Commander, we're not going to spend a lot of time on Balon Commander in this video, and it's not because he's bad. It's just because he stands in the very, very large shadow of the Balon NCU in the new Greyjoy faction. So I'm not going to suggest we spend a lot of time talking about Balon, just because he's not going to be very impactful as a commander in the faction right now, which is a little bit of a shame. I liked running Balon in the previous version of the game. And then Eric Ironmaker will talk a little bit about his tactics cards later, but I'm not going to dwell too much on his commander card. His commander card got an improvement. He got Divide the Spoils, and his Gifts of Silver and Bronze ability now allows his unit to generate pillage quicker than it would have. His old ability just gave his unit 1 pillage, and that was it. So I think that's all we'll say on those three. I think from my angle. Chris, do you have anything you want to say about Asha, Balon, or Eric before we move
No,
on?
no. We can move on, I guess.
Okay. Do you want to talk? You want to lead us off about in talking about Victarion Greyjoy and what
Yeah,
change he had, and kind of what you've seen from your side of the table on the receiving end, maybe of or as an observer
yeah.
of Victarion.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, I bought into Greyjoys at some point because I really like the whole fluff, right? The whole thematics of Greyjoy. I really love it. But for me, Greyjoy, I played them like maybe like 2 or 3 times, so it's not fair to say I cannot play the faction well, but I see them a lot of times against me. So yeah, when we look at Victarion for me was always a decent commander in the faction because it basically got the best out of what the unit is trying to do, right? Is basically killing, right? Killing and healing.
Mm-hmm.
So and now he got a really small change, but a pretty impactful too. They added vicious to him, and that makes him an auto include into Silenced Man, which we will talk later. But he will
Mm-hmm.
always be in Silenced Man and makes this unit such a devastating unit. When you put the Drowned Men right behind it, and have you have your safety net in terms of like when he gets some damage, you have your cards, you have your NCUs, you have the Drowned Men out there, so your healing potential is quite good, and this unit will just slash through all the enemies out there, and with Overrun guaranteed, not even as a card, but like on him, it can be really devastating. It's such a great commander, and you see him like across the board. When I check stats, when I check all the lists, when I check the Hall of the Champions, and I see the winners that are Greyjoys, there's always Victarion Greyjoy. So for me, it's like the Gregor Clegane of the Lannisters. Same
Mm-hmm.
same kind of not list building, but same kind of tactics you put out there. You rush in, you want to one-shot units, you want to overrun if your commander is your opponent is not positioned well or too close, or is not able to punish a certain move by Vic, then it can be over quite quickly for you, because
Yeah.
the damage output is so big on this unit.
Yeah. Giving him vicious is pretty big. Because like you said, you want to put him in Silenced Men most of the time.
Yeah.
And if you've got Silenced Men that have 2 pillage, they're radiating a -2 morale bubble around themselves.
Exactly.
And then vicious gives them another -2. So you're just you're going to be pushing a lot of panic failures through to the enemies, unless they're just have on like god tier morale. You're going to be causing a lot of panic wounds, I think, with these guys, or with
Exactly.
Victarion.
Yeah.
So
And the double
yeah,
sundering then, right? I mean
yeah,
right,
yeah. They got the
we
super
will see
sundering on the
later, but
Soundsman.
still,
Yeah,
like the combo out of like this insane sundering
hmm
and the -4 on vicious, that will, yeah, your opponent has to adapt to this. If this unit pushes
yeah,
forth, you need to adapt to what's coming.
yeah. And Victarion is such a like a aggressive commander that
Yeah,
when he's in a high damage output unit, he can just do amazing things. The base deck has We Do Not Sow, which gives you a free attack. He's got assault orders, so if you use that on him or on Newt, he can charge. And yeah, he can just do some insane things. He didn't used to be the kind of top creme de la creme of the commanders in the faction, because he was kind of like super hyper aggressive commanders always didn't seem to always be like at the top of the charts in the last version of the game. It's almost like they would fly too close to the sun and then just get snuffed out by some more defensive lists or but
true.
he seems to be doing really well, and I'm here for it. I always love Victarion. I just, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy he got vicious. He's at a natural home in the Silenced Men, and I'm pleased that he's doing well. He also got a unit attachment. His kind of regular unit attachment got a change. Not really worth talking about too much here. It just went from 3 points to 2 points just to be in line with other relentless attachments. Nothing really else to say there.
Was just forgotten,
And
I think. It's like
yeah, I think I
it's
was
like the
more of an
rainbow
oversight.
card. It's like the rainbow card.
Yeah.
It should never be this way, right? So that
Yeah.
change was way overdue. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was Theon Commander who got Sentinel. Sentinel's good order. He's the kind of the movement commander out there. So that's good for him. I think even more than the Theon Commander though, I'm excited about the Theon unit attachment that went from 2 points to 1 point. It didn't get any other changes other than a points change, but with Reckless Heroism and Swift Strike now at 1 point, I think you can do some cool stuff with him. Some attack and retreat stuff with, the Reapers or Bolton Bastard Girls.
Bolton Bastard Girls, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Shoot, go in,
yeah.
Retreat.
Shoot, auto 6 charge.
Auto 6 and go out again.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, they could scoot up 2 inches, shoot, auto 6 charge, and then if they get a really good retreat, then they can like retreat back around the kind of toward a flank or rear angle. So yeah. I think that's pretty cool. And so for other attachments, we've got Baelor Blacktide. So he was another one that was not commonly taken, but now that he's been reduced from 2 points to 1 point, he gives a unit boldness and courage, which is kind of universally like a 1 point ability. You see like Pikeman Captain and Baratheon, and you see it in the what is it for Martell? The not Spearman Captain, it's the
you mean
the thing, the thing, the guy, the what is he, Sunspear? Anyway, insert card on screen and you'll anyway, boldness and courage. So it's like a 1 point ability, but
you mean
has,
you mean the
Sunspear Captain or something, or what is it?
From the Royal Guard. From the Royal Guard.
Yeah, all right. I'm just gonna look it up now. It's bothering me. Spear Lord. There it is. Spear Lord.
Spear Lord, yeah.
So boldness and courage, 1 point ability, good, but he also has unyielding. So that kind of helps mitigate the Greyjoy's poor morale a bit. So you'll have a unit that gets beat up, and now with the unyielding, it won't take as many panic wounds. So him dropping from 2 points to 1 point, I think, makes him a definite contender to go into a number of different Greyjoy units.
Yeah, one of the best attachments you can do is boldness and courage. I always like each and every unit benefits from it, and especially units that drop quite a bit from first to second rank or whatever, right? That attachment is always good. Always good.
Yeah, for sure. And then very quickly, Drowned Prophet got Go Down Fighting as an ability.
Yeah,
which he was too expensive at 2 points for just giving him resilience. So Go Down Fighting is good. It kind of leans into Greyjoys that are going to their tendency to get beaten up a lot. So you put them in a squishy unit that's going to get beaten up. Resilience slows down that imminent demise a little bit, but Go Down Fighting will do some auto wounds. Not too much that really needs to be said there, I don't think. So
yeah, too expensive.
Let's move on to units now, and kind of leading off from kind of the Baelor discussion with boldness and courage. Kind of a nice segue there would be to go talk about the Bowman. Chris, do you want to talk about the Bowman and what changes they've had, and what do you think if their changes are good or not so good?
Yeah, the change is one of the worst changes that Greyjoy got, right? It really made them not unplayable because they are still on 4 points. It's a long range unit on 4 points, so still usable in some sense, but it took away a lot of what Greyjoys used to do. I mean, like generating pillage in long range and dealing and putting it somewhere else through Divide the Spoils, and this is not possible anymore. So they won't ever generate their own pillage. So you need some attachments like what is it? The Euron attachment and the
You're on
or the Eric
Crow's Eye.
Ironmaker and the Eric Ironmaker NCU to basically give it to them, and so that they can basically distribute. So this whole pillage generating resource thing they did is not there anymore. So now, or only if you put in those other, if you really focus on it in list building, then you can still do it. But from what I see in the last weeks and months, when opponents played me, I did not really see that. And Bowman really got a little bit off to the bench now, and I saw them a lot of times. Their substitutes came in. The trappers came in because they still I think they do more for 4 points, but we'll talk about that later. So yeah, that's for me on Bowman.
Yeah, this was one of the most jarring changes, I think, for Greyjoy players, because Bowman were, like you said, such a fundamental piece of Greyjoy players' strategy, and it was never a question of, are you going to take Bowman in your list? It was, are you going to take 2 Bowman in your list, or are you going to take 3 Bowman in your list? Because they were so, just so necessary to the faction. And on the one hand, I'm sad that they can't throw Pillage out like they could anymore, but on the other hand, I do think some change was needed. If you're ever talking about, do I take 2 of a certain unit or 3 of a certain unit in a game where you're only ever really going to have like 4 or 5 combat units on the table, I think that something needed to be done. So I'm okay with the change. As kind of traumatizing as it is to somebody who loved having Bowman on the table, handing out Pillage, it just makes you have to totally rethink your Pillage generation strategy as a Greyjoy player. But like you said, there is the option of throwing Euron in there. So you can throw Euron in there, and then in rounds 1 and 2, as you're kind of positioning, you can divide the spoils, those 2 Pillage tokens off. So they'll get a little bit of what they did before for 1 extra point. So, you can still, they're a 4-point range unit. You can throw Euron in there to make them 5 points and kind of effectively still be able to do what you were doing with them before, where you're going to start off with 2 Pillage on them. And in the first couple of rounds, as you're moving your units forward and positioning them, you can hand those 2 Pillage off with dividing the spoils. And then at the end of the day, they are still a 4-point ranged unit. So a 4-point ranged unit is still going to be strong, because ranged attacks are still very strong in this game. It looks like they're going to get even stronger with this Jokin NCU commander that's going to apparently bring about the apocalypse in the game. And we'll see. But yeah, they're still a 4-point range unit. And I think most lists are still taking a Bowman unit because they are 4 points and they are a ranged unit that can plink away a little bit at enemy units. So they no longer do what they did, but they still have a role in Greyjoy armies. And so the next unit is the Ironborn Reavers, and these guys got, I think, one of the biggest buffs of the units in the faction. So these guys used to be kind of so, I would say. They started off as a 4+ to hit, and you really had to like work to get them to just actually do some significant damage. Now they started a 3+ to hit. They stay at a 3+ to hit, but now if you get them with 2 Pillage, they get rerolls all the time, and they get that +1 attack die from the universal Pillage ability. So they really become killers now at as a 5-point unit, and they're pretty much an auto included, I think, in most Greyjoy units. I know toward the end of the last game version, I was substituting in the Lysine sellswords for these guys, and it felt bad to have to use a neutral unit to replace your own in-faction 5-point unit, but that's what I felt was the better buy at that point. But now it's nice to see that they got a real kind of glow up. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. Nothing more to add than this unit can really generate its own Pillage, right? They're really great in doing their own. So they will have it at pretty soon. They will have their 2 pillage tokens if played right. So yeah, great change, great unit. Auto, as you said, auto include in Greyjoy lists. Yeah, nothing more to add.
Okay. So the Bowmen were a 4-point unit, and as I was saying, they're a great 4-point unit. Another 4-point unit in the faction that is a little bit more controversial, I would say, is the Ironborn Trappers, who got changed also. Chris, do you want to talk about the Ironborn Trappers and what you see, how you see their change, and if you see value in them, in their new version?
Yeah, only being on the receiving end, but still the movement speed increased to 6 is always good for Trapper units, like across the board. When you check other factions, the Trapper units in there, if they can move 6, if they move right behind your front line, and deal out something like the hidden traps and kind of stuff. So with this unit, basically does the same now really well. And as you said, it might be controversial, but what I see on the table is, if played right, defensively, behind certain units, protected by a flank, maybe. If this unit is there and gets his 2 tokens through some mechanic, it deals out so much and much needed weakened tokens, right? It deals out vulnerable and weakened, and this is so big for the Greyjoy faction to put out weakened and vulnerable, because it's each and every unit has big attack potential, or most of them, like we just talked about the Reavers, we talked about the Silence Men, those, or even the Iron Makers, right? Even those guys, everyone has quite good attack potential. So vulnerable tokens are great, and at the same time, except the Iron Makers, all units lack a little bit of defensive ability. So those weakened tokens are also great. So from my point of view, for 4 points played right, that kind of token output is just needed for the faction. So if I would jump into Greyjoy now and would start to play them more intensively, or like more often, I would definitely take a look into the Trappers in list building.
Yeah, I agree. I've always been a Trapper advocate myself. Partially it's because it's a unit that I painted and I love the sculpts so much. I think the sculpts are awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love this change. It used to be that you had to get pillage before you could put any tokens out. But now with no pillage, they put out either a weakened or a vulnerable, and with 2 pillage, they put out both. So I think even from the get-go now, with 0 pillage, these guys are good. They can, as long as they're the ones that are kind of dictating when their token gets put out, I think they can be really good. If they're getting charged by something, they can just explode. If they're getting charged by some really offensive unit, they could just pop. They're an 8+ morale, 6+ armor, so they can just get blown away. And they do have disrupt, which helps them out. But I think they can really kind of stop up a unit if they can dictate the pace of the engagement a little bit with that weakened token and that disrupt. Weakened token and a disrupt, even if it's a 3+ attack that's coming at them, can do a lot of work. I think if you put an attachment in them, also you can kind of increase their survivability a bit. I've heard of people putting a Drowned Prophet into them to just make them extremely annoying. As a 6-point unit, you put Drowned Prophet in them. You give them resilience, so they can take 1 big punch to the face every round. And then with Go Down Fighting, as they get beat up, they deal auto wounds. So I would like to see what how they do in the new game version. But I know the Stony Shore Pillagers are going to come out pretty soon, and those guys may kind of take the role of the Trappers a little bit, as kind of a unit that can get beat up and just kind of stay engaged with something and take some hits. So we'll see. But I'm pleased with them. Also, like you said, they're movement 6, and that was kind of a theme throughout the Greyjoy update, that units were moved up to a speed 6. You got the Trappers that are a movement 6 now. The Silence Men are a movement 6, and what else? The Reapers. The Reapers became a movement 6. So Greyjoy is now a extremely fast faction on foot. which is great.
Compensates
So
a
I
little
think,
for the lack of cavalry, right? I mean,
yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
a
it does
lot
does
of
a little bit.
Greyjoy lists with hedge knights right in there, or
Hmm.
some, or maybe source riders even nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a little bit up for it.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we'll move on now to
The
inarguably the most powerful unit in the faction right now, and
the
that's
bad
the
boys.
Silence Men. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these guys were the they're the most insane unit in the faction. This is the unit now that people are saying, do I bring one of them or do I bring two of them?
Yes.
They're kind of, they're not even, they're kind of muscling out the Golden Company swords a little bit as far as, offensive output in the faction. And I think the Silence Men are one of the reasons that the faction has been climbing the charts a little bit, but not just the unit, it's that unit plus what Balon can do for them as an NCU that we'll see later. So it's kind of them with Victarion, with Balon. It's kind of the whole package. So they're kind of a very key part, I think, of why Greyjoys are climbing from the bottom of the kind of stats ranking up to near the top now. And as far as changes in this version, they got a additional two pillage abilities. So this is the only unit in the faction, I think, that has two pillage abilities. So they retain their
Yeah.
pillage ability of that morale bubble, where they radiate a -2 morale aura around them and they take 2 fewer panic wounds. But now they also got super sundering, kind of like the Umber Great Axes have, where now if these guys have 2 pillage on them, their sundering does an additional -1 to the armor. And then they also got Dauntless. Whenever they heal, whenever they pass a morale test, they heal a wound. So, personally, I don't think they needed the super sundering. And I think these guys are going to end up getting nerfed a little bit to either lose the super sundering, or their morale bubble will get nerfed to only do -1 and -1 wound.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm being very cautious about rushing out and buying 2 boxes of these guys, because I think I've bought 2 boxes of certain units before because I got really excited about running 2 boxes, and then a patch came in and that second box is
Who
sitting
didn't?
unused.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be very conservative with my spending on Silence Men, and I'm going to keep my one box of Silence Men for now and enjoy them. But I think these guys are maybe a little overtuned. They didn't need an extra pillage ability. But yeah, anyway, what do you want to say on these guys, Chris? I could go on and on about them. They're great, but what do you think?
Yeah, every Greyjoy player loves them. Again, for me on the receiving end, it's just incredible to see how much they can do. I mean, even I had that one game in Rotterdam where I put up Spearmen, so Shadow Tower Spearmen with no, not with Harden, but with Donald Noy in it. So shield wall, right? So added shield wall. So set for charge, shield wall, armor 3, 5 morale, and I still had a big fight against them. I mean, I didn't die, but still, it was a pretty rough time for me against those guys. And as you said, if you put out the assault orders, if you put out what is it, the other card where you get your free attack from.
We do not sow. Yeah, we do not sow.
Yeah, exactly. We do not sow. If you do that, if you have those in the right moment, it was a bad brawl, man. It was just hard to receive that, even with that kind of unit. So yeah, be cautious against those guys.
Yeah, you may think you can just kill them because they're a 5-up morale, but if Balon hasn't used his once per game NCU ability, then be careful when and where you kill them, because they may reappear in a place that you do not want them to reappear.
Yeah.
In certain circumstances, it might be more useful to just try to tie them up for a while rather than have them appear in your flank.
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, they're insane. They're great. I'm not buying a second box because I don't want to be ticked off in a month or 3 months or 6 months when they get nerfed and I no longer would run 2 of them. So anyway, love them. Use them while you got them, while they're hot. And There were other unit changes to the faction, excuse me, that we can kind of gloss over a little bit more quickly. I think the ones we really wanted to
Sure.
focus on, we just finished talking about. So Black Tide Chosen got changed. I'm not really gonna go into explaining how they got changed. These poor unfortunate souls have been the redheaded stepchild of the Greyjoy 7-point unit bracket ever since they came out. Pretty much, they yeah, I'm not even gonna spend more time talking about them. They need some work. They're just not really getting run anymore. There are better 7-point unit options in the faction and outside of the faction to
Yeah.
take. You know,
Yeah.
Drowned Men, their morale went down. I don't, not really worth talking about. They went from a 4+ to a 5+. Who cares? They're still still strong. It's not changing their pick rate. Not really worth
Yeah. Yeah.
mentioning. Uh, do you have anything to say about Black Tide Chosen or Drowned Men, Chris?
No, no, not really. Just as you said, Black Tide Chosen is really a sad 7-point unit. Like
Hmm.
game wide. Game wide compared to all the other 7-point units, maybe not all of them, but most of them. It's just sad to see. Yeah.
Yeah, and it bugs me on a personal level. Well, I don't know if personal level, but I like the sculpts of the Black Tide Chosen a lot,
Yeah.
and I hate excuse me, I hate the sculpts of the Silence Men. I maybe am standalone in the community and hating the Silence Men sculpts, but I do not like how homogenous they are. Every single one of them looks like it looks like they went to a photo shoot and it's the same guy just doing different poses with,
Yeah.
the same exact armor, same exact weapon. It's
Yeah.
just the same guy at a photo shoot taking 3 different poses
Yeah.
or 4 different poses. So it annoys me, especially when you have other units in the faction that are taken less but have spectacular sculpts like the Reapers and the Black Tide Chosen. So anyway, getting off the
Yeah.
nerd rage soapbox, and I don't think I'm going to get back on it for this video, hopefully. Um,
Hopefully.
but yeah, moving on. So the Reapers got changed. They're so they really got changed. I think fundamentally they were like very panic focused. They leaned into panic. They were always vicious, but their pillage ability allowed them to push more panic wounds or to heal themselves off of panic wounds, kind of like Prey and Fear with what they have now. But they lost the ability, excuse me, they lost the ability to push extra panic wounds through. Um, but now they just do a free attack on death, kind of like a Mag the Mighty sort of situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
While I recover my voice, do you want to say anything about these guys?
No, not about the Reapers, as you said. Yeah, kind of a weird change in this complete overhaul. Kind of unexpected. What they're trying, or really, I don't know what they're trying to achieve with that change on that unit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we can quickly jump to the Iron Makers, where I feel it's
Okay.
not a
Yeah.
crucial change because you won't change the way you play them. It's just for me, Iron Makers were always a good unit for beginners, or like when you pick up Greyjoy and you start playing them. Iron Makers is a great unit to kick things off with because they're quite kind of easier to play than all the other stuff because it's
Hmm.
killed so quickly. So Iron Makers got from a 4 plus defense, and they could potentially push it up to a 2+ with 2 pillage. Now they start with 3, so it
Yeah.
again, same way to play them. It does not change the way you play them. It does not change list building, but it's kind of it's even now a little bit more intuitive or more easy to play them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well said.
Yeah.
They start off as they start off at its 7-point value. I think now you can say they're not a
Yeah.
4-up armor save, which felt really bad. And you see people now like throwing Dagmar Battle Scars attachment into them to make them more offensive as they get beat up. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy for the change. It's good to see them get a little bit of a improvement there. So I think we can move on to NCUs now. So
Yeah, let's go.
there were a few kind of important NCU changes, and then we'll gloss over a couple other of them pretty quickly. Do you want to lead off and talk about the big boy, big bad Balon in the room here, and kind of what your thoughts are? We've talked about him, because like I said early on, his shadow looms large over the faction right now. But do you want
Yes.
to talk a little bit about him, Chris?
Yeah, as we have mentioned before, Balon is so strong that you do not even consider taking his commander. So, and Balon, he does not have to claim a zone to resurrect a unit. He can just do it once per game. You can activate him and pass his activation and opening up that ability. So that's pretty crazy for one. So good, like a good change that you do not need to claim a zone. But I think it's a little bit over the top. I think this NCU will experience kind of a nerf soonish, like in a hot fix or in the next patch, because he brings back that unit unactivated with his attachment and all the tokens claimed. The pillage.
Pillage.
So
Yeah, it comes back a pillage.
So this unit, imagine Silence Man with Vic with 2 tokens right in your behind, right? I mean, right behind you in round 4, right? I mean, what I want to say is when I see that a lot of times, or especially when I look at beginners picking up that game, playing against Greyjoys, I think most players out there cannot adapt to such a thing. Most of them, because when you are engaged in round 4 or 5, well, 5 is maybe a little bit late, but let's say that happens in round 4, most players will be so engaged in melee or be positioned on certain tokens and cannot move away anymore from that. And since he does not need a zone, right? He just places it right. He can place it right behind a squishy unit that was just there to hold out a token, and just rages through your army from behind. Right. This NCU is a little bit over the top for me. As far as I'm concerned, he's too strong.
All right. Well, I don't think he's going to get changed anytime soon. No
Okay,
offense taken.
Okay. Yeah.
No offense taken. I don't think he's going to get changed anytime soon. I think we'll see unit changes before he gets changed. We'll see though.
Okay.
But he will deploy a unit unactivated if it hasn't already activated in that round. So you have to be, if you're the Greyjoy player, you can kind of dictate a little bit whether that, how to get the most out of him here. So let's say you have a unit of Silence Men that began the round activated, or began the round engaged, excuse me, and let's say they're down to 1 rank, and you're able to take the sword. You take the sword zone, you do a free attack, or you do a we do not sow attack or something, and you do everything possible to hold off on activating that unit because you want your opponent to kill them. So your opponent kills them before they get to their activation, so you can use Balon and then do what you just said of put someone in their flank and kind of run amok with their actual activation. But it is a broadcastable kind of ability. You as the other player, like you said, though, it is kind of it feels bad for a new player that may not be thinking about it. They may not be thinking about Balon. They may not be thinking about the strategy of when that unit is going to get killed. So he is an ability that is very easily broadcast for an experienced opponent. An experienced opponent knows when he's likely to be used. But he is extremely powerful. He is fundamental to the faction right now. He is he is one of the reasons why they are climbing high in the rankings. But I mean, I think he's great. It's sad that he has a great NCU means he's not going to come around as a commander.
As a commander, yeah.
But that's okay. He'll come around again at some point.
Yeah.
Now, one change I didn't like was Baron Blacktide. My boy Baron got massacred in this update. So he dropped to 4 points, but his resilience ability was swapped out for hardened, which itself was already nerfed in the previous update. So yeah, I don't want to dwell on him too much, but he's just feeling really sad right now. He was basically just completely obliterated in this update. I haven't seen or heard of him being taken in the update, and he also still has his caveat of must be attached to a Greyjoy unit, which is extra lame. Do you have any other thoughts on Baron?
No. Other than that, he was used quite often, as you said, right? I wouldn't say auto include, but a lot of Greyjoys playing, because this resilience on a stick to put on a certain unit where you need it was so important for Greyjoy players, right? Because of the well covered lack of defensiveness. So yeah, as you said, it's just sad for this NCU. This will be just put on the bench for quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then let's see, moving on. Do you want to talk about Makoro? He was an attachment or he was an NCU that wasn't really taken very often before. He was a 5-point NCU. Now he's a 4-point NCU and got his top ability changed. Do you want to talk at all, like kind of what you've seen or what you think about him?
Yeah, I think the point change is big. I recently saw him using his resurrection ability on Vic, and especially like while we talk about Vic, especially with let's say you have this particular Victarion Greyjoy list with Silence Man and you know blah blah blah. You have this list and you have Makoro with 4 points, and you get your auto your charge in, right? Your definite charge in with Vic, and right before that you shut down the ability of the defending unit, especially in our nowadays meta with Golden Company and all of that stuff. Or or I mentioned my Shadow Tower Spearman, right? Set for charge, shield wall, that kind of things, or with hardened or whatever. You know, whatever that unit has to offer in terms of defensive ability to fight against Vic. If you shut that down in the right moment, charge in with Vic, get all this out. This is a big play. I mean, as you said, it's also a broadcasted thing, but you can't do anything about it, right? Other than like Baratheon players shutting down Makoro right in the beginning, like with Olenna. That's the only thing I can think of right now. But there might be 1 or 2 more things, but you cannot really do something against this Makoro and then charging from Victarion. There's nothing really to do. So I think he's great. It's a great change. Yeah. What's your take on him?
I think he's potentially game changing if he's used at the right moment. Like you said, you charge him in. Let's say you're charging into like a Martell player that has all kinds of juicy little cards that they want to throw at you when you attack them. And you pop Makoro, and then they just basically have to stand there and take a big juicy Victarion charge with their pants around their ankles. It is only 1 turn. You can only use them 1 turn for the whole game, but it could be, if you use them at the right time, it could swing the balance of the game, I think. So I think it's a great change. And only 4 points. The last one I want to focus on is Wendemir. And Wendemir was one of those that was almost an auto include in every Greyjoy list, because he was just so much value to give you shifts and give you heals.
Yeah, because
and he had his movement shenanigans and giving heals and pulling a tactics card. His change on paper doesn't seem big. You know, he started the game off with a token, so you could start the game off with 1 token to be able to shift or heal. Now he doesn't. So almost always you would use him in round 1 to give himself another token. So he would start round 2 with 2 tokens. Now he will start round 2 with 1 token. So it just feels a little less. It feels a lot less valuable because you're not able to chain. You can't use him. You can't use him twice in 1 round really, unless you really build him up. And I think he's falling to the wayside a little bit now. You know, because Varys is taken so often. Balon is going to be an auto include, so that leaves you with 1 NCU, really one NCU choice. And Wendemir, I think, is kind of suffering a little bit. Also, typically in a Victarion list, you're gonna want to take Roderick Harlaw, so you can mulligan your hand to get those those juicy assault orders or rush of aggression when you need it.
Yeah.
So Windermere is just, yeah, he's sad. I feel bad for him. He was a good friend for a long time on the table, and now we've parted ways.
Yeah,
Maybe
and he's even
we'll
challenged by, yeah, maybe to a later
go ahead.
point, but he's also
Yeah.
challenged by Peter Varys,
Mhm.
right? Even those guys are on the spot for this last 4 points. So
Yeah, and even Mokoro, like you mentioned, our last NC we talked about, Mokoro can be super impactful in one turn of the game. So yeah, Windermere's feeling sad. Other NCUs that were changed, Eric Ironmaker, his Pillage generation ability as an NCU was changed. So he doesn't generate Pillage himself in a round and hand out Pillage in a round. I've only played one game with him so far, and I wasn't really too impressed. I only managed to use him to hand out a couple of Pillage. So I don't think his change was huge. People weren't running him a ton anyway. But I don't know. I'm not thrilled with the change so far. I've only played one game with him so far. I can't say too much, but it wasn't great. And then Christopher Botley got changed to he was able to shut off his zone from being taken, which was pretty great. Could really kind of help you out or swing a game a little bit. Now his effect is just kind of lame. Both players count as controlling the zone. I don't think we need to talk too much about him. I think he's in the shade of some of these other NCUs now.
Yeah, I would agree.
So excuse me, I'm fighting to keep my voice from shattering. This is the most talking I ever do in a day when we do these videos. So yeah, my body is not used to it.
Stay strong, man. It's almost over.
All right, let's talk about tactics cards. Do you want to lead us off and talk about the base tactics cards first? We'll talk about let's say what is Dead May Never Die, which is one of the real core cards of the Greyjoy deck.
Yeah, let's talk about this card that everyone knows, everyone hates, everyone loves, right? So what is Dead May Never Die got a great change in our opinion. Now it serves as a guaranteed, no strings attached, save at one wound remaining, right? Instead of what it did before, you needed the swords, but you had the D3. So some people might say it's only one, right? Not D3 anymore, but you do not have all those let's say punishments or restrictions when without the swords.
Those conditions.
Yeah. So I think it is a great change for the card, and the even more crucial change is that it got an alternative heal 3 wounds ability or effect. So this card is now, I would say, the most essential in the Greyjoy's deck, that you always will need at some point. I mentioned the brawl with the Shadow Tower Spearman and Vic, and even when I killed them once, right, there was the card. Vic was standing there again, and it was just it was so hard for me to come by this unit. So yeah, what is Never Never Die? Great change, just good for the faction all over. Right.
I really
and last sorry, last sentence on it. Like normally, like before that, you were like, if you pick that up in round 1 or 2, most of the time you just need to hold the card, right, all the time. Now there might be a situation in round 2 or 3 where you can just pop it and heal with it, and this is great. That does not feel bad as a Greyjoy player to just hold that in round 1. And I know how it is as a Night's Watch player when you pick up take the black in first round. You're like, all right, there it goes. Like in general, great card, situational, but great card in like round 3, 4, 5. But if you pick it up in round 1, you just you either hold on it, but it's not as crucial as what is Dead May Never Die. So Night's Watch player will drop that one. But this card, you just needed to hold on to, like before that. And now with the additional effect, it's more usable, more adaptive to what happens on the battlefield across, starting around 1 or maybe 2, 3, 4, right? And that's good.
Yeah, I think what I like about it most is what you just said about that. If you draw it early, you don't feel as bad. You know, if it used to be you draw what is dead may never die in your opening hand, and you just feel like, oh no, there's one card I can't get rid of that is going to just clog up my hand. But now that it has that secondary effect of healing 3, you don't feel so bad about cycling it because you're still getting value out of it. Instead of discarding it, you're going to probably take wounds in the next round or something. So you just hang on to it and use it for the 3 wounds. But yeah, I think it's a great change.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Finger Dance. So Finger Dance was another one that was kind of tied in with the Bowman meta that used to exist in Greyjoy. So Finger Dance was just an auto apply card to Bowman. So it used to be the change basically is it went from any attack to melee attack. So it used to be that you could put it on Bowman, and whenever they shot something, they were generally at the same or higher ranks than that thing. So it was always giving a vulnerable token at range. Now Finger Dance only applies to melee attacks. So while that's too bad for the Bowman, fortunately, you're still going to have good targets for it. You've got Bowman and Reavers, who are always going to be up there smacking things in the face. So you don't feel so bad about it, and your high damage units are already saving on a 5+. So if they have a vulnerable token, you're probably already assuming they're going to take most of the wounds anyway. So I don't feel too bad for it. It was I didn't like feeling like I always had to put it on my Bowman. So it is good that now there's some more options there. I'm not too sad about this change. I'm happy to have it be a more melee focused faction. I think it should be a melee focused faction. They are a bunch of, salty, stinky Vikings. I don't think the meta of their faction should be defined by archers or bowman spam. So I'm okay with this change. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, definitely nothing to add to this. Good for Greyjoy deck. Good for the base deck, because I would consider still, even after the patch, the Greyjoy's deck is kind of a mixed bag, right? There are great cards in there. There's a good amount of pretty situational cards in there, and there are some cards in there which basically just fills up your hand, which you want to recycle. So it's kind of a mixed bag. So this change reduces that to a certain extent. Yeah.
All right, now the next base tactics card that got changed was the Iron Price. So, burning pillage tokens isn't something you really want to do as a Greyjoy player, and if you do it, it has to be something really powerful, like a powerful effect. The Iron Price, I used to use it as like an emergency heal. It used to be that you could burn 2 pillage and then heal a unit for 4 wounds. And if I was doing that, then I was in like real dire straits, that I was using this card. Now they did away with that card, or that part of the card, and now it can just remove a condition token. So I think 9 times out of 10 I'm discarding this card. I think most Greyjoy players are not hanging on to this card. You can either, I don't know, I don't even know, I can't even recall using it in its new iteration here. I think this is just a card filler. You discard it unless you really seriously need one of these effects on the card. But yeah, for me, I'm not hanging on to it.
No,
personally,
it eats up too many resources for the effects that it brings, right?
Yeah. And then rating call got changed, but it wasn't a functional change. It was just a minor housekeeping wording change to just remove the reference to pillage, basically. The old pillage mechanic. So with that, we'll move on to commander tactics cards. And I think most of these we're going to kind of just gloss over, or just kind of run through them real quick, because there weren't a lot of real impactful changes. Balon Commander got I would say the most changes as far as card all three of his cards were changed in some way, but we're not really going to cover him just because I don't think it's that important, because Balon is going to be an NCU probably in your army. So who cares if his commander cards got changed? You know, it's sad reality. But just in the interest of time, we're gonna skip over Balon's cards. Asha, well, not same thing, but Warcry got changed, but that was a universal change. So her Warcry card got changed. Dagmar, his knowledge paid in iron card was changed. It used to require 2 pillage tokens to get discarded, and now it only requires 1. So, you know, it's kind of back to the discussion of discarding pillage hurts, but at least now it's just one pillage, and he can retrieve a discarded card. So you can, you know, maybe retrieve one of those We Do Not Sow or What Is Dead May Never Die. But yeah. Do you have any comments at all on any of these ones before we move on, Chris?
No, I really feel the biggest change, or might be the biggest change, might be on Eric. So maybe we can just jump to him.
Okay, yeah. So Eric, 2 of his cards were changed, and I think this is really exciting for me. So he was always the kind of meme commander of just, you know, just the worst commander with the most useless cards, and now he's one of the most unique commanders. Not uniquely, I wouldn't say uniquely bad, but he has like some of the most unique tactics cards. So now 2 of his cards now operate a lot like a Night's Watch Vow card. So you play them and they have an immediate effect, but then they have a persistent effect based on how much pillage that unit has, which I think is really cool. It gives him something unique that other commanders don't have. I'm glad other commanders don't have it, because I think it's really cool for it to be unique to him. And also, I don't want to have to manage that many pillage abilities. You know, I already get confused now when I have their faction wide pillage +1 morale, +1 die to factor in, and then the units have their own pillage ability. That's a lot for a simple man like me to keep track of in a game. So I'm happy that he got changed. I'm excited to try him out because I think these new cards have the possibility of being pretty fun and really like elevating certain units to do more. But yeah, I think that's an exciting change. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, you know, as a Night's Watch player, I really like the cards, and I know how they can stack. The only thing I think on him is that his attachment is a little bit like, you know,
yeah, it's a little sad.
Mediocre. Like, yeah, it's not a great attachment. So yeah, I like the cards. I do not really like the attachment, like the buff it brings, the instant effect, the long-term effect. But as you said, like you really need to watch out where you attach it, right? Because in the end, it's not a Night's Watch unit. In the end, it might be a pretty vulnerable Greyjoy unit, so you might lose it quicker than Night's Watch players would. So yeah, you need to really be cautious where to put it.
Yeah, and you put it on a unit that gets killed, and you want to Balon, bring that unit back with Balon, then all those cards are gone off of them. So yeah, you have to be careful.
Even with Balon, it's gone.
Yeah, even with Balon. I would like to see what people do with the Stony Shore Pillagers when they come out, because the Stony Shore Pillagers have, I think, some good synergy with Eric Ironmaker. So we'll see what people do with that. Just a couple more changes, and then we'll kind of wrap things up a little bit. Theon Stark Exposure got changed. This is in line kind of with some of the other changes we've seen to charge cards, so cards that involve charging. So this change basically now it triggers off of a successful charge rather than before charge distance dice are rolled. So you're not worrying about losing this card, which is good. And then Victarion, his sustained assault charge got changed. This was a universal change, so we don't really need to mention it. Do you have any thoughts at all on Theon, Chris, or
no? The only thing I can on Theon, the only thing I can say is, as we mentioned that in earlier videos, I like that they are trying to, if you put a Stark into Greyjoys, if you put Mormont into Night's Watch, if you put certain houses in certain other like factions, that they want to bring some feel from that faction. Like, you know, with Benjen Stark in Night's Watch, we also had it with the Stark Fury element when we talked about Night's Watch. And I really like that they're trying to keep this house theme, this kind of play style that certain factions bring into another faction. I really like that. Just from a fluff perspective, from a thematic perspective, I like it. So I like that with Theon too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
That's
it is really cool to see those little flavors of other houses kind of trickling into different factions. So I think that is it for the Greyjoy changes. I hope we didn't get too lost in the weeds here. I think we kept moving about as fast as we could. I personally would have wanted to have talked about absolutely everything in detail, but thankfully my body is conspiring against me, and my voice is giving out on me, and I'm almost out of water. So you know, I think we'll leave it there.
Leave it there.
But thanks a lot, Chris, for joining me on this video.
Sure.
I think we just
Anytime.
have one more collaboration video on this video series, and that'll be on Martell's. That'll be on the next week on Hits and Crits channel.
Yeah.
So yeah, if folks watching this video, if you haven't already subscribed to Hits and Crits, go head on over there and subscribe. There'll be a link in the description of this video, and check out the previous videos in this series. And yeah, I don't have anything else to say. So with that, this is Randall
and Chris
signing off.